It was a pretty simple system. And when he first built it, it was working great. And over time, it just got to where it wasn't making money anymore. And he was really frustrated. I mean, almost to the point of tears, you could hear it in his voice. And we stripped it back down to the original, and it got back, and he was just killing it. I mean, he was hitting almost a 95% win rate with a 1-to-1 profit to loss ratio. He was just killing it. And he was just blown away because he's like, I can't believe it. I added all this stuff and all it did was take profit out of the system. And it was hilarious. But yeah, just simplifying, keeping things as simple as you can, while keeping the necessities there. That's really one of the best things that you can do.
Welcome back to I'm sitting down with Brian McAboy. We talked a while back, I believe it's 6 years ago on the podcast. Looking forward to having him back here again to discuss consistency in trading, some things that you can do to become better, improve your edge. So Brian, welcome to the podcast. How's it going today?
Hey, thanks for having me. Hey, life is good today, man.
Yeah, good to connect with you again. It's been a long connection. It's been long overdue, this one. So let's go back and start from the beginning. Tell people a bit more about kind of who you are and what you do these days in trading and on the side.
Well, these days in trading, I'm swing trading. I found that with the day trading, it was fun, looking at the charts all day long and investing that much time in it. But after a while, I kind of burned myself out. I just got a little carried away. And I'd started with swing trading, so it's just kind of circled back to it. Swing trading, I like. Can trade part-time, still take advantage of trading. Got plenty of time for, personal interest, helping other traders, that kind of stuff. So as far as what's happening lately, really, I'm just stressing caution with everybody. It's cool that, the markets are moving and, we've seen all these big moves and swings and that kind of stuff. And there are a whole lot of people got their mouths watering, but everybody's got to keep in mind trading. I don't know have you ever heard of Simon Sinek?
Yes.
I mean, one of his things, and I absolutely love it when he's talking about business, but it's absolutely perfect for traders. He said, you need to understand what game you're in. And he said, a lot of businesses, they're playing the short game. It's like, we're going to beat the competition and, we're going to win. And, they're looking at this year and that kind of stuff. And he said the really smart businesses, though, the ones that aggravate their competition are the ones who are playing the infinite game, where their objective isn't to win, but to stay in the game. And that's exactly what it needs to be for trading. It's like, you may have some great opportunities in front of you, but this is also a dangerous time. And so if what you do and your skill set and your confidence aren't suited for, wild markets where things are, big things are happening on a daily basis, you're better off to hang back and just make sure that you can get through this period. Because and I don't know if you remember 2008, man, a whole lot of people took a beating, not just, in the business world and the regular world, but a lot of traders took a beating because they were trying to take advantage of all the craziness that was going on, and they weren't ready for it. And so, their system that worked under normal conditions wasn't working then. And so that's what I'm telling everybody now. It's like, if these aren't conditions suited for you and you don't know that you're solid in this, be cautious and keep your guard up, because the main thing is you want to be able to get through this. So really that's one of the main things as far as like right now that I'm doing with people, that. And me, I used to be a quality engineer, so I'm always going to be telling everybody focus on consistency, because that's really where it's at. It's nice to make a good profit, but you want to be able to do it over and over again. So consistency is really the focus.
Tell me a bit more about this, because people might think that the people who took the beating back in the 2008 and stuff and other kind of crashes are the guys who were investing, like the people who either buy stock or buy indices, keep it long term. These guys got hurt a lot. But how did traders get hurt in those periods also?
Well, like I said, they didn't understand that, what works for them under normal conditions. And this is true for all traders, whether it's times like this or not. There are very few systems that work in all conditions. Trading, it's kind of like football. It's like one of my favorite metaphors. A football coach doesn't come to the game with one play, because the circumstances are different on every down. In football, you might have 1st and 10. It might be 2nd and short. It might be 3rd and long. And so and what the other team is throwing at you at the moment might change. And so you have to have the appropriate play for the circumstances that are in front of it. And same thing with trading. If you are a trend follower, trying to trade breakouts or trade choppy markets, or, your strategy is going to be suited to certain conditions and not necessarily very well suited for others. And so if you've got a system that works under quote unquote normal conditions, cool. but don't think that it's necessarily going to be working. Like I said, when things are getting wild and banks are failing and all that kind of stuff, and there are big news announcements that can move markets fast. Don't be thinking that your system that works under normal conditions is going to work now, because that's how so many traders got hurt back in 2008. Is I had a lot of people coming to me and they're like, Brian, what I've been using for, been working for years, I'm getting killed now. And there were traders that were losing, 40-50% of their account because they kept trying to use the same thing, but these aren't the right conditions for that. And so that's the main thing. Like I said, if you're not ready for, for these kind of circumstances, don't go there. It's like going to a rough part of town. if you don't know how to deal with the rough part of town, you don't go to the rough part of town.
I think a lot of traders are also kind of oversimplifying it, where they see it's either like trending or sideways. But there's a lot of, like, when you have a crash, it's not just about trending or sideways. More about like how much volatility there's in the market, like what the moves are looking like clear cut, or is it like chopping around and stuff in the market. So tell me more about like the subtleties of these either crashes, or it could be other times where the market, it's not just about like up and down or sideways.
Well, like I was just saying, what you got to have a strategy for whatever circumstances are in front of you. Some strategies work great in choppy markets. Most don't. Most strategies are looking for some sort of movement. And, that's how the money you're making your money, because you can get in, the market moves, you get out, and there's your profit. Choppy markets are tough because it's not moving enough, or it just moves along, and over time, you're just getting out at such a small win or loss. It's not really worth the trade because your realized reward is not there. So you have to make sure that you play to your strengths and avoid your weaknesses is a different way to look at it. If you're good at trend following and you can do it under normal circumstances, cool. But like I said, part of the challenge with things like what's going on right now is there are big moves that are happening fast. I mean, our main advantage as traders is that the markets are people and computer algorithms. It's not just purely random. That's why the charts, there's it's a line that moves up and down. It's not just a scatter plot where it's all over the place. And so there's an underlying order, and that's because it's people and computer algorithms. And what we see in the charts is a behavioral response to whatever the market's thinking right now, or an event that's triggered an emotional response. And that's where our advantage comes in as traders, because if I recognize, here's the beginning of this particular pattern that I've seen before. I mean, that's what patterns are. They're behavioral responses. And so if you can see the beginning of a behavior pattern in the charts, you can get in at the beginning of it and it should play out. The problem is, and the reason it doesn't always play out, is something else another event may trigger a different response and interrupt the rest of that response playing out. And so, like I said, right now, in the times that we're in, there are a lot of interruptions. There are a lot of patterns that don't play out. Things just don't behave like they do under normal circumstances. And if the markets aren't behaving normally, then that predictability is gone. And that's the problem. That's why you're at risk, because the predictability that's there. I mean, the markets have the uncertainty of what might happen when, but once a response is initiated, it gets real predictable, and that's our advantage. But it's when things are unpredictable, or there's a lot of stuff going on right now, that's when it can get risky.
For a trader who has a certain style, they trade all the time. They do the same thing, the same like set up a strategy, and they see the market not being different or like not working out for them. How should they adapt? Should they like go and learn something else to trade, or should they just stay on the side, or what else can they do to kind of stay in the game and learn at the same time without blowing up the account?
Well, just common sense says if what you got isn't suited for right now, first thing is you stay out of the game, because otherwise you're just really asking to lose. The next thing is really, first thing you just got to put on your thinking cap and say, all right, these are the circumstances. What sounds reasonable, just period. I mean, that's how everybody needs to approach trading is what I'm wanting to do, is the strategy that I want to use. Is it reasonable? Does it make sense? And then, you document it, hopefully properly. And then you go test it in the sim account in real time. If it's, like if you're day trading, you can do it in real time and test it out reasonably in a short period of time. But you go ahead and prove it out, make sure that, what you think should work, it will. And and then if it does, then you can maybe step back into the markets. But again, do so with caution and really paying attention to your risk and is it actually working? Do your real time results match up with your testing results? I mean, does that answer your question?
Yeah, it definitely does. Yeah, I know a lot of traders would want to not be on the side when these things happen because they feel they have this desire to be in and to kind of take trades and like be part of the game and like make money. So for them to be on the side would be tough, but it's definitely the right thing to do in that case.
Oh yeah, definitely.
One thing you're really good at, and I really like this about you, is that you're really good to use the business lesson into trading. Like we discussed this like a few moments ago exactly, but where are some other places where you can apply some business stuff to trading to sort of become better and organize yourself better?
One of the best ones, and that's a great question. I'm glad you asked. What saved my trading? I mean, when I first started out, I didn't know what I was doing. I just kind of jumped into it. My broker wasn't helpful. And so I was just flying by the seat of my pants. And so for months, I was just practicing bad trading. I really was. I didn't know what I was doing. I was nervous. I was an emotional wreck. I was chasing stuff and just trying stuff. And I was not treating it at all seriously. And so I wound up blowing up my account and I took a break. And what saved me, and this is it came out from outside of trading. What saved my trading and what I teach now is applying quality assurance practices and perspectives to trading. Because I was a quality assurance manager. I was working in the corporate world in manufacturing. The company I was working for, we're making plastic bottles like these for like Coke and Pepsi and Gatorade, that kind of stuff. And I was really good at it. But the cool thing about it is with quality assurance, one of the primary foundations of quality is consistency, being able to do something over and over and over again, very consistently, repeatedly, and get a known output. And that apply. And the cool thing about it is quality assurance has been proven around the world for decades, like 50 years. And you can apply it to any business process. It doesn't matter what the business is, whether you're selling goods or services or anything. I mean, heck, even like Visa, credit cards and pharmaceutical companies all have quality assurance programs. But the thing is, when I applied it to my trading and I started looking at my trading as a process, and okay, yeah, I've got a strategy here, and it's a cool strategy. How am I going to do that? 500 or 1,000 times. That's where I was able to bring in all my quality stuff, and it works wonderfully well because it's called quality assurance. That's where you have such a handle on your process that you know what your output's going to be. And it's perfect for traders. And again, that's what I teach traders. And it's cool because a lot of people coming to me, they're thinking they're all messed up because, they're all over the place. And it's like nobody ever taught you how to settle down and get consistent. And that's what this is. It's kind of like the science of consistency. And it works great. And I mean, as you know, most traders are above average in, like intelligence and success and that kind of stuff. That's why we're in a position to trade. It's just most traders are struggling because they're trying to do a job that they haven't been trained for. And this is one of those key things is how to get consistent, how to take a good strategy and execute it consistently hundreds or thousands of times. And so that really is like one of the main things. Again, it comes from outside the trading world, from the business world, and it works perfectly here, and it works great because unlike thinking, I got some, deep mummy daddy issues is why I can't, make money trading. I'm successful everywhere else, but not trading. No, there's nothing wrong with you. You're okay as a person. Again, you're just trying to do a job you haven't been trained for. And so that's cool because it's not going to take a year on a therapist couch to figure out, what happened to you as a child. It's like, no, you've just been missing some key training and you get the training and it's like, cool, now you go do your thing. And a lot of the emotional stuff goes away because now you know what you're doing. You know that you know what you're doing. And so you can settle down and trade a lot more, calmly and with poise.
That's a very good point. I'm sure we can discuss that. So, because when you go into a job, like in a company, for example, they're not gonna kind of train like you said your child issues, things you had in the past that would affect why you cannot do the job today. But why is it that as traders we want to work on that stuff? I mean, it could be right, it could be helping, it could not be helping too much. But the way you're saying it is definitely a good point where there's a lot of other stuff we can control before that stuff that could help us become better traders, for sure.
Well, and one thing you just mentioned that's really, really important, just from a thought process and a way to look at things, is you can't control the markets. I mean, you mentioned the word control. And yeah, you can't control the markets or the events that trigger things in the markets, but you can control yourself. And it's really important to keep that in mind. You can control yourself and you can control what you get out of trading if you manage yourself properly and you approach trading properly. Yeah, you can definitely have control over your financial success, as a trader. But you don't try to control the markets. Just make sure you keep in control of yourself and what you do.
So the issue I have with this is a lot of people are gonna they feel like they're stuck in like cycles. Like they have good runs and they kind of blow it off with a couple of bad trades because they get hijacked by their emotions, by what they feel. They should be taking profits faster this time or shorter this time. Is there a logical way to fix this? Or is it the only way to fix this with psychology and being in coach as a therapist?
No, really, I mean, from a psychological standpoint, you ever smoke cigarettes in your life?
No, not much.
When I was a young man, I smoked cigarettes. And I saw myself as a smoker and I saw it as an okay thing. And the way I saw it was okay. And that's part of why I was a smoker and why I smoked. But when I quit smoking, I saw things differently. The whole activity, it's like I no longer saw it as first of all part of my identity. I didn't see myself as a smoker anymore, and I didn't see the activity as beneficial or anything I wanted to do anymore. And so what I found is how you look at something really matters a lot. How you see it kind of determines what it means and how you're going to treat it and how you're going to and your beliefs about it. And so with trading, you can be looking at it as, oh yeah, I had a great run and I'm making all this money. And that's how you see trading. Or you can look at it as this is an ongoing process. And I just want to stay consistent about what I'm doing. And I'm going to focus on what I do. And yeah, I'm going to have good days and yeah, I'm going to have bad days. And a lot of times, whether or not I'm having a good run or a bad run really is not even under my control because the markets are going to do what they're going to do. And no system's going to win 100% of the time. So even a great strategy, it might win. I mean, it's statistically probable that you're going to have streaks or yeah, maybe you'll have 7 or 10 wins in a row. And it's really due to nothing more than just the circumstances lined up. It's not like, you were doing anything in particular, or you might hit a bad streak and it's just the way the numbers are working out. And so you always have to keep in mind, it's like, yeah, okay, things look like they're going great, but it's just the way it is. And I just need to, again, see it as this is just a daily process and every day's different. And my thing is, I just need to make sure that what I'm doing is consistent. And so it's how you look at it. You can look at it as, oh, I'm doing great and I'm making all this money. And, I'm in the casino in Vegas, or I'm here at my job running my business. And I just need to make sure that I continue to do every day the things that are going to work and keep the focus on the process.
The other thing that I think people have trouble with is the idea of they think the harder they work with trading, the more money they'll make. Like the more hours they spend analyzing or like learning with books or like watching YouTube videos, the more they'll make money in the market, the more they'll be able to kind of get knowledgeable about how trading work and then get better results. I think a business wouldn't see it that way. Like a business, it's not about how much time you work necessarily. It's about kind of what things to focus on in your priorities. Tell me more about kind of what are some things you can focus on to make trading work better, as opposed to like putting in a lot of hours necessarily.
Oh yeah, and that's really an excellent perspective you bring up because you're absolutely right. The more hours that you're putting in isn't necessarily going to be productive. Actually, if you overdo it, it becomes counterproductive at a certain point. I was working with a guy not too long ago, and that's what he did. It's like all he does is work on his trading. He only actually is trading for like 4 hours out of the day, but he's spending 12 hours a day on his trading because, yeah, as soon as he's done trading, he's journaling and then he's reading books and then he's watching YouTube videos and going over his charts again. And it's like, dude, you need to have a life. And so when we started working together, it's like, you got to have some decent life balance so that you're bringing your best self to trading. You're not burning yourself out. And the other part of it is you can't try to do everything. Let's start small and establish some success and then build from there. And really, we only need to build up to the point that you're comfortable. This doesn't have to be a full-time 60-hour-a-week job. You can trade very part-time and make very good money. It's like you're talking about, just focus on your priorities and your strengths and leverage that. So yeah, that's the big thing. And one of the first things I do with almost everybody that I coach is first thing we're going to do is simplify and bring our focus down small instead of trying to do everything. Let's focus down small to where we can establish that success. and then we'll build up from there. But don't worry about everything else, and give yourself time to rejuvenate and refresh yourself so that you bring in your best self to the trade.
You feel like there's something that can be done for people who are strategy jumping? Like there's a period in trading where you want to try everything, you want to learn all the stuff you can, and you want to just like try all these strategies on your account or just in demo. But there's gonna be a time where you gotta go to like focus on something, trade something better, focus on like one strategy, one thing. Is there a way to kind of make that process faster to kind of stick to one thing, or do you have to just like take the time you need and then go and stick to one thing eventually?
Well, there are a couple of different approaches you can take as far as what really works best. And again, just like a football coach, a football coach, he's going to have a playbook of like, maybe 50 or 100 plays. And the same thing with traders. And almost everybody that I've worked with, even if they were happy trading one strategy on one thing, like maybe, they're trend following with the E-mini, eventually they do get to where they want to be able to do more. And so, yeah, they'll run across strategies that they want to try and expand their portfolio of strategies, which is cool. And it just makes you a more capable trader and able to deal with different circumstances and profit. But as far as how to build your playbook, yeah, you're not going to try to learn, 10 plays all at the same time. You need to focus and just do them one at a time and establish success with it, establish that competence and confidence with it, and then move to the next one and just go ahead and take it in a stepwise fashion. Now, that said, several years ago, this guy, Mark Joyner, was real popular. This was like about, I want to say around 2009, 2010. And he came out with this approach that he learned in the military, which I thought was really cool. It's called Simpleology. And the point of that was being able to learn 3 things at a time. And what you do is today you focus on, strategy 1, and then tomorrow you focus on strategy 2, and then the third day you focus on strategy 3. But then you come back to strategy 1, and you go through this 3-day rotation. And like at the end of 30 days, you've gotten in 10 days on each of them. And it's a small enough cycle that you're staying fresh on each of them and giving them each focus, but you're not only focusing on one. And so it's a different way to approach it. So if you have a hard time just focusing on one thing, you can do 3 at the same time. And at the end of 30 days, you'll have, instead of doing one for 10 days, one for 10 days, one for 10 days, you're doing all 3 at the same time. And it lets you get there in a different manner, and it mentally processing it, it's still effective, but you don't have to do just the single focus if you have a hard time doing that. It lets you do more than one thing at once, but in a productive manner. And I thought it was really cool when I ran across it because I've tried it and it actually does work. I was surprised that it worked as well as it does. So yeah, if you want to look into it, it's called Simpleology by Mark Joyner. You can just Google it and you'll find it. It's pretty cool and it's free. He offers it as a free course.
Pretty cool. I never heard of that, to be honest. So that sounds like something interesting for sure. The other thing I feel like people don't use enough with trading is the human factor. Like in a business, they have all these employees, they have an HR department. When you go and trade the stock market or Forex or whatever market, it seems like people assume they're going to be on their own. They're going to kind of try to make everything work themselves. And is this something you do where you like involve other people? You kind of reach out to people to sort of improve your trading and kind of stay on top of your edge?
Oh yeah. I've been a studier and a learner forever, and I plan on it for the rest of my life. I mean, the main thing I learned, even going back to college, it's like the more I learn, the more I realize that I don't know. And so, yeah, I'm always, looking into new courses. I hire coaches from time to time, when it's appropriate. I stay in the learning mode just because one of the cool things about trading is it's always evolving. The markets are always evolving. The technology for trading is always evolving. Every now and then they'll come out, with new things to trade. It wasn't that long ago, the Bitcoin and the cryptocurrencies weren't even a thing. And then all of a sudden, bam, we have a whole new marketplace to trade. So it's an evolving world, so to speak, in trading. And yeah, the thing is, you do have to stay, in learning mode, and you always want to be continually developing and learning as a trader, because in some regards, things do get more challenging. And again, the technology changes. And so you want to stay on top of it so you can stay competitive. I mean, the last thing you want to do is just, stay with the same routine and kind of get left behind, and things get difficult after a while, and now you've fallen behind. So yeah, really super important. Well, and the other thing is, if as a developing trader, it's absolutely important that you get outside help. Because one of the biggest things, and again, this is something I've really lately been trying to impress upon people, In trading and learning to trade, if you're doing it all yourself, you are your biggest limitation because you don't know what you don't know and you can't see what you can't see. And so long as there's stuff that you don't know that you need to know, if you're not aware of it or you don't know how to teach it to yourself, it's going to remain a limitation forever. I've had some people come to me, for help, and they've been trading for like 8 or 10 or 12 years and still not making good, decent money, or some not even making money. They've been just, floating or, sitting there, they're treading water for years. And you need that outside perspective to help you see what you can't see. And again, fill in those knowledge gaps of, okay, I've been struggling with this. I don't even know how to, address it. Here's how you fix it. That's what that outside help can do for you. And so it's not just a nice thing to have. A lot of times it's absolutely necessary because the markets will not teach you. The markets will only punish you for making mistakes. So you have to have somebody, you have to go to somebody and have them teach you, because this is not a game that just lends itself to being figured out. I mean, like a lot of traders, I'm pretty good at figuring things out, but markets, no. If you're doing something wrong, they're just going to keep slapping you and taking your money, but they're not going to give you any clues as to what you're doing wrong. So the outside help, if you want to shorten that learning curve, absolutely get the help, get the outside help. It's so huge. And the nice thing is it'll save you time. And, trading is a very isolated activity. It's just kind of nice to be able to talk to somebody who understands this, understands what you have going on. They don't think you're crazy, and they can actually help you. Is actually very cool. I mean, that's one of the biggest feedback comments that I get is just being able to talk to somebody about this, because, none of their friends or family, they know that they're trading, but they can't talk trading with them. And so to actually be able to talk to another trader that knows what's going on, it's like just that is huge by itself. So, yeah.
Yeah, totally agree with that. There's a lot of things you can figure out on your own, like by looking at your past trades, looking at your journal, a lot of like your mistakes you do and stuff. But there's a lot of it that you cannot see if, like you said, you've not learned it before, you've not been trained to spot these mistakes correctly, or there's just like a whole aspect you're missing out of your trading. So that's a very good point. In terms of seeing like where to look, because there's so many trading indicators these days, so many ways, so many techniques you could learn, so many setups. So many kind of versions of what you got to work on. How do you figure out what you need to work on at this point in trading?
Well, you have to look at your own tendencies to start with, because if what you're doing doesn't line up with how you see the markets and how you think and what you're comfortable with, it's going to be a struggle because you have some sort of internal conflict going on. I mean, for example, if you're a kind of a contrarian thinker, and you're always, you don't believe in the trend, you're always expecting it to turn against you. Trying to be a trend follower doesn't make sense because you won't be able to stay with the trend. And so again, you just kind of have to look at, how you are as a person and how you see the markets and how you think generally. And then you want to, pick a strategy that aligns with that so that it makes sense to you and you're comfortable with it. That's like the best starting point. And then really from there, it's just keep things simple to start with, because like you said, there are so many indicators, there are so many strategies. I mean, just like general strategies. I was blown away years ago. I sat down and I started to list them all out because, you got Gartley patterns, you got Elliott wave, you got, trend following, tops and bottoms, pivot points. As far as general strategies, I started listing them out. I stopped counting after 40. And then once you pick a strategy, there's like 50 different variables you can bring into it, depending on what kind of indicators or settings or this or that, or, different rules. And so it's the different permutations that you can have as a trader. There are literally millions. And so the main thing is you want to start simple. Again, you start with yourself, and then you start simple and basic and keep things as basic as you can. One of the biggest problems that I see that the traders will do is they overcomplicate things, and especially with their system. I mean, when we're coaching somebody, one of the first things we'll do is we'll take a look at, what they're using. And more often than not, what I find is that, a lot of traders, their system, as they call it, is they're trying to do tons of things. And, they're trying to catch, all kinds of different opportunities, and it's all kind of smashed together, and or they've added stuff to things that don't work. And so one of the first things we'll do, that I do with them is like we strip it down and get it down to, the bare essentials. and then go from there. Because more often than not, what we find is the strategy that they started with actually was a good strategy. It's just the stuff that they added, maybe indicators, or you know, scaling out, or changing their exit strategies, or their position sizing. They overcomplicate it, and then they wonder why it's not working so well. And more often than not, when we simplify it back down, it actually performs pretty well. Sometimes it just kills it. This one guy, he came to me. He had a system that started off. He had a custom indicator built, but it was a pretty simple system. And when he first built it, it was working great. And over time, it just got to where it wasn't making money anymore. And he was really frustrated. I mean, almost to the point of tears. You could hear it in his voice. And we stripped it back down to the original, and it got back, and he was just killing it. I mean, he was hitting almost a 95% win rate with a 1-to-1 profit to loss ratio. He was just killing it. And he was just blown away, because he's like, I can't believe it. I added all this stuff, and all it did was take profit out of the system. And it was hilarious. But yeah, just simplifying, keeping things as simple as you can, while keeping the necessities there. That's really one of the best things that you can do. And again, keep it aligned with how you see things and what works with you personally, so that you're thinking, and you're not constantly fighting an internal conflict. So I know that's a long answer to your question, but
No, this is so true. It's one of the biggest difference I see between the new traders and like the experienced ones who are making money with it. Like the new guys, they always try to like combine all these things and like find the trade that match all these things. Like you said, the it could be like the pivot point, the support area, this pattern, that pattern, this indicator, and they try to like line up everything. And that reduces the number of trades they take for sure, but it also kind of makes things just too complicated, where they have all these things kind of going against it. It's just tougher to trade. The guys who've been in the market for a while, usually they only have like one or two things they follow, like one or two very simple things, and kind of works for them better. They just focus on that. They might have a thing going against them, but they don't even look at it, or they don't care for it. So sometimes doing less is kind of a good thing in trading.
oh yeah, keeping things simple, definitely. Yeah.
So let's go back to this. I'm sure people are going to ask, but what would be an example of like a simple strategy in your opinion? Is what kind of targets should you aim for? What kind of rules should be simple? Because people might think, oh, it's either too simple that what they have. A lot of people actually think that what they have is too simple, but it's actually pretty complex. So maybe give an example of what a simple strategy could be like.
Oh, one of my favorites is the Andrews pitchfork, where you're working on the action reaction. One of my favorites, because it's super simple. It's a trend following strategy, where you see the trend run up, and then there's a retracement, and then it's going to run up again. And his whole theory was that the first half of that is going to be mirrored by the second half, and both the size of the move and the length of it. And he proved it out, and it's a lot. I've seen a lot of trading competitions won with that strategy. I mean, they're sometimes called zigzag patterns, but with pitchfork, the cool thing about it is when you take the starting point of the initial leg, and then you run it through the midpoint of the retracement, and then you extend it further out. Not only does it give you a price target to shoot for, it also lets you know when you should expect it, which is fantastic. It's one of the few strategies I've seen that actually gives you both target and timing of when you should get there. And it actually works rather well. And like I said, a lot of competitions I've seen, that's really the strategy that they're using. So it can work on a fast time frame and on a longer time frame. So, and as far as a basic strategy, that's fairly easy to learn. And again, it's logical. Okay, yeah, the market, we've seen this, run because of whatever confidence. And then there's going to be a pullback, and then a continuation of that run. Logically, it makes sense, and so it's mentally easy for people to grasp, and it's also pretty easy to execute. And you can combine it with a couple others, maybe a volume indicator or something like that. But it's something that you can use as a very basic strategy, and it really, like I said, it just works well, and it makes sense, and it's been proven out. I think he developed it I don't know how many decades ago, but it's been around for a very long time, and it's proven itself out. Lots of people. Well, one of the main things I like about it is it's a strategy that people can use and actually emulate. There are a lot of strategies that have been published over the years that are great strategies, and they're pretty simple, but people can't seem to duplicate the success of the person that created it. This is one where the success rate of people that use it is actually pretty high.
I think one of the biggest kind of mistakes is falling into the new trends. Like there's always these new things coming up in trading. I'm sure you've been like helping people with the same strategies for years, but you see maybe these new things coming up, these new terms that people want to like trade, and falling for these terms is just sometimes counterproductive because first it's not been tested that much most of the time, and second it's probably just like a trend that's going to disappear within a few years.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's hilarious. I mean, I know it's a legitimate platform, but I talked to some young guys that I know, and it's hilarious because they're trying to learn how to trade, with their Cash App, they using Cash App for their trading platform and watching YouTube videos and Reddit for their education. And it's like trend following, but like not trend following on the charts, but following the latest trends as far as activities and approaches with the younger crowd. That's like the place to go if you want to, get on the latest wild ride. It's like, oh yeah, we're doing this. Yeah, we're doing that. And it's so hilarious because as far as, trying to become a real trader and do this and take it seriously where you're going to like make a living from it. It's like, that's not the place to do it, guys. Cause that's just the Wild West over there, especially on Reddit. A lot of good people there, a lot of smart people, but yeah, crazy times for sure. So yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I'm sure these kind of people are not going to watch this podcast because they're watching the guys with Lamborghinis and stuff. But someone who's new to trading, they maybe don't have a lot of money to like spend on mentors and courses for now. But where should they kind of go to learn if they want to stay away from these trends, these like Lamborghini guys and stuff? Where can they kind of learn to trade properly?
Well, old school as it might sound, there's a number of really good books that have been around for a long time. I mean, Mark Douglas is Trading in the Zone. Almost everybody I talk to that's a semi-serious trader has read that book, and it's an awesome book. It really is. So some books you can find at the library, get them for free. Otherwise, you can go to Amazon and for $100 you can pick up two or three, maybe four books. Good books on trading. Larry Elder's book. Of course, you got all the classics. So just reading books and then being selective. If you go on YouTube, being selective who you choose to follow, you can get a pretty decent education for not a whole lot of money. It's going to take more of an investment of time than if you hire somebody and work with them directly or take a course, because the information is not as well organized and maybe you don't get that interaction. But if you have more time than money, that's a great way to go about it. Is books and just a few YouTube channels. Follow one or two. Don't try to follow 10 people because then again, you're just getting a huge information dump into your head, which isn't necessarily helpful because then you're trying to assimilate too much. But keep your focus small. And the main thing, if you're wanting to learn how to trade, and this I can't stress enough, understand trading is a skilled game. A skill-based game. And so you have to focus on getting good at it. And it does require skills, not just placing trades, but there are a whole bunch of other skills that you need as a trader. And so you need to focus on you and developing yourself as a good trader, as well as, looking at strategies. Don't just say, I want to try this strategy. I want to try that strategy. I want to try that strategy and just be jumping around, chasing strategies all the time. You need to focus on developing yourself and getting good at what you do.
Interesting. I'm sure you heard the statistics of, I think it's what the 95% of businesses fail within the first 5 years, something of the sort. And people kind of see the same thing with trading as well. Like the same stats apply to trading very well. What do you think makes it that businesses or traders fail? Is it like a lack of skills? Is it because they traded too much? Or is it because they just don't have the right knowledge? What do you think kind of is the traits of the traders or businesses that succeed versus the ones that don't?
Well, there's two main things that contribute to it. The first one is the low barrier of entry to trading. If you want to trade and you've got money, you can trade. It doesn't matter who you are. Short, tall, skinny, fat, stupid, smart, doesn't matter. If you got money, you can open an account and you can trade. And so that low barrier to entry is one of the biggest problems. The second one is the lack of training. As an industry, this isn't one where, as it is with other professions. I mean, if you want to sell insurance or you want to, be a doctor or an engineer or a lawyer, there are the barriers to entry, but there's also required education just to get into the industry. And so the people that get into those industries and become those professionals, there are certain things that are required that they learn about the business and about being competent before they're even allowed to start doing business. With trading, the lack of organized education is one of the biggest ones, and the lack of requirement for it. But one of the biggest things I've found with most traders, their biggest challenge really is a lack of training. A lot of times they're thinking it's a lack of emotional control or a lack of discipline. And it's like, no, you're trying to do a job that you haven't been trained for. And that's why it's tough. That's why it's stressful. That's why it's not going well. And that's why it's just plain, it's going to be an emotional ride because you're missing skills that you need. You're missing understandings that you need. And once you gain those understandings and those skills, you'll probably be fine, just like any other activity. If you go into it properly prepared, you'll probably do fine. And it won't be a stressful and emotional ride. You'll just go do your thing and have fun with it. And with trading, it's a lack of training. It's not a lack of discipline. It's not a lack of emotional control. It's because you're trying to do a job you're not fully prepared for. And once you get that training, it makes all the difference in the world.
Awesome. Well, we've covered a lot here for sure. And I want to give you a chance to kind of promote what you have going on and where people can find you. So what can they connect with you if they want to see your work and see what you're up to?
If you go to YouTube, Trader Brian is my YouTube channel and my website, Inside Out Trading. If you want to come there, I've got a whole bunch of resources, a lot of free resources, ebooks, videos, different spreadsheets, tools. And of course, if you want to take a course, I have some courses on how to get good at consistency, how to organize your trading as a business. And if you want to work with me one-on-one, I also do one-on-one coaching, which personally I think if you're really serious about it and this is something where you're like maybe want to retire or have trading providing a living for you, it's really the best way to go because the interaction where not only am I giving you the information, but I can ask you questions and interact with you and give you feedback, find out what's going on with you. The interaction is really huge. And the coaching, I mean, if you think about it, if you wanted to be a lawyer or an engineer, you're going to have to invest like for an engineer, it took me engineering is a 4-year degree, which is what I have, and it's going to cost you tens of thousands of dollars. But it pays off because once you have that degree, it lets you into a good occupation with the right skill set that, you can go get a nice living from it. And trading's the same way. It's going to require an investment, either an investment of time and maybe some money. And if you'll do that, go ahead and invest in yourself so that you're becoming who you need to be. That's really the best way to go about it. And if you'll do that, that really gives you the best odds of, getting in that 5% that does make it. I mean, that's the thing, like you're saying, the statistic with business owners and traders, a lot of it is because, again, you're trying to do a job that you're not prepared for. A lot of business owners didn't go to business school. They just kind of started their business and they were learning on the fly. And so that's why it's been rough. And so just like with trading, it's like if you get the right training, so you're coming into this prepared, your odds are a whole lot more favorable than if you're just trying to figure it out on your own. So anyway, I know I went off on a little rant there. As far as how to connect with me, InsideOutTrading is .com is the best place to find me. I'm also on LinkedIn, but swing by if you're curious, if you want to find out more, if you want to just talk about your situation, what's you've been struggling with, what's been giving you a hard time. Book a free call with me. We'll talk. We'll see what's going on, and I'll point you in the right direction as far as best way to get you where you'd like to be.
Awesome. Perfect. I'll leave the link below in the description. People check it out and connect with you there. That's awesome. And they can check you out on YouTube as well. So you have a lot of good content there. So that's pretty awesome. And thank you, Brian. I appreciate your time here and the advice you give my listeners. I think it's been good to catch up. We're going to do this faster next time than the next 6 years. That'll be awesome. And look forward to catch up with you pretty soon.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks for having me on, Etienne.